I'm here on behalf of BeInCrypto, and before the interview today, make sure to go and check out their website, www.beincrypto.com, for crypto news, trading advice, and much more. Also, you can join their Telegram at BeInCrypto community to discuss trading and be a part of the community there. Now for the video. Hey everyone, I'm Scott Cunningham, aka Scottsy Business, and today we're here with Chris from MMCrypto. Before we dive into everything, would you just like to share a little bit about yourself, maybe a little introduction for the people watching?
Yeah, sure. Thanks for having me, first of all, here in your show. It's amazing to be here to talk to your audience. And I'm Chris from MMCrypto, as you already said. MMCrypto is our YouTube channel. We have an international one, a German one. We make every day about Bitcoin, monetary policy, financial crisis, all the good things which are going wrong or right out there in the world. And yeah, I graduated in economics. I just love to talk about numbers. I love to talk about macroeconomics and, of course, about Bitcoin. So yeah, thanks for having me.
Yeah, absolutely. So when did you originally get into crypto and blockchain tech?
It was around 16, beginning 17-ish, so you could call it late, like definitely not in the OG stage. But the problem was I was first always approached with like some MLM schemes connected to Bitcoin and crypto. I was just like, no. And then I was like researching gold, silver, and all the good stuff. But then, of course, like one day I found some much more legit sources, and I saw that, wow, I mean, Bitcoin is actually decentralized. It's legit. It's a very good scapegoat here from this, flawed financial system. And that was the moment when I fall into the rabbit hole, and I went in more deep. I took some friends, we invested, we made investment criteria for like altcoins, ICOs, and of course, my biggest part was always Bitcoin. However, it went very well, and we just decided to share it with the audience. We didn't think about like monetizing it or making it a business. We just wanted to share it because it was going so well, and yeah, that's how we eventually blew up after time, and yeah, MMCrypto became a big thing.
Yeah, that's awesome, and it's always good to see that even someone who wasn't in the OG phase was still able to be successful, and then like hopefully inspire other people that you didn't have to be right at the beginning to be able to make it. So diving in a little bit, what are your thoughts on the global financial system right now and how it's affecting or being affected by cryptocurrency?
So I would rather say because we are so small that the global financial system affects the cryptocurrency space. But of course, like the global financial system gives Bitcoin its value. So like I think like it's a positive feedback loop, or like it's at least positively connected from the global financial system to Bitcoin. And what we can see out there is that the whole monetary policy is completely flawed because we have central banks, not only the Federal Reserve, where everyone is talking about, or the ECB, we also have the People's Bank of China, and in fact, 84 central banks in the world lowering interest rates, printing currency, buying government bonds, corporate bonds even. I mean, it's ludicrous on the secondary market and pumping fiat currency into the system. And of course, this is horrible. First of all, as a Keynesian, you would say, well, it is something which is necessary. They have to do it. They have to support the stock markets. They have to support the economy. But in the end, what actually is happening is from the lower and the middle class, they are stealing purchasing power by doing so. And what they are doing is by buying these corporate bonds, they are just financing their friends' corporates. And by diluting the currency supply, they are also diluting the purchasing power of the employees of that corporate. So in the end, only the higher class, the upper class is winning and everyone else is losing. And I think that Bitcoin and also gold and silver are a perfect scapegoat because you can buy Bitcoin, you can perfectly put it on a 12-word seed phrase, put it in your brain. It's not confiscatable, and you can secure your purchasing power over time, potentially, hopefully. So I think there is a huge impact, especially coming from the monetary policy out there, which is right now completely going ludicrous, like completely exponential. So there's a very big impact.
Yeah, so a lot of that is like very evident to people that are in the crypto space. For people that aren't in the space, do you think that it's a lack of awareness or maybe a lack of even just understanding of fiat? How do you think that plays a role in all of this?
It's very hard. I mean, look at Peter Schiff. He's like a big Bitcoin gold believer, and he's not getting Bitcoin, and he's probably one of the smartest persons I know out there. I mean, he's incredibly smart, right? Like basically everything he says is right, as long as he's not talking about Bitcoin. So I think the first thing is that it is a new thing. It is a technical thing. There's a lot of uncertainty involved. So I could really urge everyone, whenever, like if you are watching and you are a beginner, that just try to buy $10 worth of Bitcoin, and you will eventually fall into the rabbit hole. You will research it. But I actually think that, the technology is the biggest hurdle. We are not in the space where you can just pull out your phone, you go on Safari, and you don't know that there's TCP/IP in the background. And for Bitcoin, it's just like, you are on the blockchain. Everything is still technical. You have to exactly copy paste your public address, and like there are many things which could go wrong. And I think this is the biggest hurdle right now. But of course, will overcome that. It's always like that. We are in the early stage. You mentioned that you don't have to be an OG. I can tell you, everyone who's buying Bitcoin today will be an OG one day when Bitcoin is at 5 million, at 6 million, whatever, like however the inflation / hyperinflation goes, we will all be all OGs by that time. And I think by that time, we will have mainstream adoption, and we will have Bitcoin being that easy to use that you don't even know that there is a blockchain behind it. And that will be the moment when we also have the grandma or the grandpa using Bitcoin. So for sure, the technology and like all the usage, the difficulties in the applications, that's the biggest hurdle.
Yeah. And how long do you think it would take before we actually see Bitcoin being used as like a standard for measuring value? Because like we know it's very skewed when you're using fiat because it's changing, because it's inflating so much that, if you look at something 20 years ago versus now, obviously it's very skewed data, and they can make charts work in their favor just by, positioning in a certain way. So how long or what would have to happen, do you think, for Bitcoin to get to that point where they're using that as a standard to measure value, since we both know that it should be a much better way to measure value in the future?
Yeah, for sure. I have a good answer for that, because right now I think the best way to measure value is in ounces of gold, for example, because throughout the last 5,000 years, of course, the price of gold was rising on a yearly basis, nearly, like at least on a decade basis. Gold was always rising. And the reason for that is because it was measured in like fiat currencies or like whatever, like in bread. And especially when you measure it in fiat currency, it gets artificially inflated, the denomination it is measured in. And this is why you should actually measure it in gold, because 60 years, or let's say 100 years ago, a very nice designer suit was costing 1 ounce of gold, which was maybe back then, I don't know, $50. Right now, you pay still 1 ounce of gold for a nice $2,000 designer suit. So the things you can buy it with are actually not inflating if you measure it in gold. And I think the same thing could happen for Bitcoin. I'm actually certain that it will happen for Bitcoin, but for that we need a higher market cap and we need a lower volatility. With higher market cap, there will eventually come a lower volatility. And just to put it into perspective, for Bitcoin to reach the market cap of gold, we need Bitcoin to be measured at approximately $450,000 in today's money. And so I think at least when Bitcoin reaches $450,000, as long as the volatility goes down by then, I would say this could be a very nice measurement. On the other hand, I would also suggest everyone, for the long term, when you are on the yearly candles or whatever, I would measure Bitcoin in gold. You can just go on Google and say Bitcoin against gold. And that is a very interesting thing. In the last 10, 11 years, you didn't see a lot of fluctuations because gold was basically going sideways. But I can call right now, in the next 10, 20, 30, 40 years, it will be very much more interesting to measure Bitcoin against gold, rather Bitcoin against fiat, because I can see Bitcoin going to 5 million, 10 million, 50 million US dollars per Bitcoin, even if we see hyperinflation. And then, of course, also gold will inflate. So only the ratio between gold and Bitcoin will be interesting, because that will actually show you, can I actually buy more with my Bitcoin? And the fiat denomination is certainly not something which will give you that information.
Yeah, I absolutely agree with that analysis. So, somewhat similar to that, how correlated would you say Bitcoin is to the U.S. stock market and maybe to other major financial markets as well?
Pretty much correlated. I think the correlation coefficient is at zero point 0.7 or so. Like 1 would be a perfect correlation. So there is a positive correlation. And especially recently, before it was sometime, we also had negative correlation and whatever, but especially since March, since the 12th of March, when we had this Black Thursday Corona dump, ever since then, it seems like Bitcoin is even more positively correlated. And positively correlated just means stock market down, stock market up, Bitcoin up. So what we want to see is not a positive correlation and also not a negative correlation, because I think companies are valuable in the very long run, even though they might be undervalued, overvalued right now. But of course, we don't want to see a negative valuation, because that means you are not trusting the economy with it. Because if it goes up, Bitcoin has to go down at a negative correlation. What we want to see is a non-correlation and maybe a negative correlation in crisis times, because people are hedging into it. But we cannot see it right now. We have to wait for it. I certainly believe that we will see a non-correlation. We will see a decoupling when Bitcoin will not be connected to that anymore. It remains to see when that will happen. I hope rather sooner than later, but being honest here, even though I don't like to admit that, there is a positive correlation right now.
Yeah, no, that makes a lot of sense to me, and I'm sure it would be interesting for new investors to be aware of something like that. So, in terms of like the halving, which recently happened, how long do you think we might see till the next like peak price? Or like we know, like with the last halving, I believe it was something like 500 days or somewhere around there that it took to reach its peak price. Do you think we'll see something similar to that? And how do you think that'll play out over the next few years?
So there are a few different theories. There's the stock to flow model, which means that approximately every 4 years we have the high, approximately every 4 years we have the low, like of course, like with some differences. There's also another pretty legit theory that we have lengthening cycles. This one predicts that it will be 700 days from this halving, because the first one was, I don't know, like 300 something days, then it was 500, and then the next one should be 700. It remains to see. Even if it's 700, whatever, that would be May 2022. I actually truly believe that we will probably see it within the next 1 to 2 years. But there is so much exogenous risk coming from the outside. If the stock markets plummet, Bitcoin is not able to decouple, it might take a little bit longer. If the Federal Reserve is able to kick the can down the road for another few years and we see an inflation/hyperinflation, we will see it much sooner than expected. Like way sooner. We can see hundreds of thousands of US dollars per Bitcoin much sooner than expected. So it's like a different scenarios which can be unfolding, and they will certainly determine where Bitcoin will end up. If you ask me, for my personal opinion, I'm something in between. I think that the stock to flow model has a very valid point, especially because I think that Bitcoin's value is derived to a very big degree from its scarcity. But at the same time, I can see a little bit of lengthening cycles. We can also observe lengthening cycles in the stock market. So it remains to see. My personal prediction is 2021. In the end of 2021, we might be topping out, maybe even leading into summer 2022. I actually think we can breach the old all-time high also in the end of this year, beginning of next year, which is 20,000. But of course, I'm targeting a much higher price for this cycle.
Yeah, that makes sense to me. So, do you think that or sorry, I already asked that question. So, what are your thoughts on DeFi, and are there any projects that you're following or any services that you're using regularly that you'd like to give a shout out to?
Specifically, I am bullish on DeFi, but when you are bullish on DeFi, you might as well invest into Ethereum, because if you are bullish on the use case of money on a blockchain in a decentralized manner, you just invest into Bitcoin. If you are bullish on decentralized finance, you can invest into Ethereum. It gives you a very limited downside and a very high upside. At the same time, you invest in the ecosystem. So when the ecosystem overall goes up, Ethereum has to eventually also go up. So that is the first thing. Big shout out to Ethereum. I am holding Ethereum. And for everything else, I want to give it a little bit more time. When we really see like some things like Compound or whatever really evolving and taking the lead. I wouldn't say I'm searching for the next small thing, which can be the next big thing. I would probably invest into the market leader and just gain from the network effects, because crypto is a network. We have network effects, and it's usually a winner takes it all principle for each use case, and investing in the biggest one, even though the potential gains are maybe lower than for the smaller one, the risk is also much more limited. So what I will do in the next 1-2 years is I will really capture the top 10 and see if I can find some leaders I can invest in.
Yeah, that makes sense. And do you think that Ethereum will also benefit largely off of the Bitcoin halving and what we might see over the next cycle? How do you think that will affect Ethereum as well? And do you have any price predictions for that as well?
Yeah, maybe a little bit. I mean, one big pain point for Ethereum, in my point of view, maybe it's necessary. Ethereum is not money. It has actually infinite inflation, since you have a fixed amount of Ethereum being minted or like being mined every year. So this is different. But of course, if the halving brings in more people into the space, and then the people get more aware of alternatives or like things like Bitcoin, Ethereum, or DeFi, of course, Bitcoin and Bitcoin's halving will positively impact Ethereum in the long run as well. Just in that way that it, as a market leader, draws more attention into the space. And then these people, once they are drawn in, also might have a look at Ethereum. So yeah, you could put it that way.
Okay. Yeah, absolutely. And do you have any other projects that you're interested in, maybe not just DeFi related, that you'd like to give a shout out to, or anything like that?
Yeah, so I have to be very cautious. If it's like one time I made a video with DaVinci J15, we mentioned one specific altcoin. It had like 80 million in market cap, and after we mentioned it, it doubled with 40 million additional volume in a day. And I didn't hold it, so it was for sure not manipulation, right? But it's just very dangerous to mention any small cap coins under 100 million, if you want to call it like that. But for sure, what I am holding, what I like, is Bitcoin, Ethereum, and also Monero. I think Monero is nice. And what I'm usually taking as a measurement of projects I think could be valuable in the long run, if there's no pre-mine, for example, if you have a public blockchain, if it's permissionless, and also if it's proof of work. Of course, Ethereum will swap over into Casper and proof of stake, but I think proof of work, permissionless, and public, that's a very important thing for blockchain-based projects. So yeah, Bitcoin, Ethereum, Monero.
Awesome. All right. Well, before we end off, I have a few quick fun questions. What is your favorite song?
My favorite song. Let me think about it. What is my favorite song? The World is My Oyster. Because the world is my oyster. Yeah, One Night in Bangkok. One Night in Bangkok.
And what is the first thing that you want to do when everything has completely opened back up and you can go and do whatever again?
Travel. I mean, in 2019, I had like 50 flights approximately, maybe even a little bit more. Wow. If you put it at 52 weeks, it's approximately on average 1 flight per week. So I'm addicted to traveling. I just love to meet new people, new cultures. I travel for food. I just love the whole world. I love all different kind of cultures and people. And I am missing that. I will probably soon travel a little bit within Thailand. Then I would be traveling to Dubai, from Dubai to Europe, and then from Europe to Thailand. That's my schedule until September. So I already have some travels being scheduled already. I can't wait for it.
Awesome. All right. Well, thank you so much for coming on. Would you just like to share where everyone can find you and follow you?
Yeah, sure. It's easy. So just type in MMCrypto on YouTube. If you are German, type in MMCrypto.de. If you are English speaking, type in MMCrypto. It will immediately pop up. Click the subscription box and also the little bell, and you will get all our videos pushed to you. And of course, we have a Telegram group, a Twitter channel at MMCrypto. So make sure you follow us there as well. It's always daily content everywhere.
Awesome. All right. Thank you so much for being on the show. And everyone, make sure to go and check his content out.
Thank you so much for having me, Scott. And yeah, see you in the next time. Bye-bye.
Thanks for watching to the end of this video. Since you did, it would be great if you could give this video a like, comment, and subscribe to this channel. And you can find a lot more on www.BeInCrypto.com, and you can join the Telegram community and follow along there at BeInCrypto Community. Thank you for watching.